What's up, Big 12 Nation? It is Tuesday night in America. That can mean only one thing. It is time once again for your favorite YouTube-based, Big 12 themed internet show. That's right. It is the one, the only, the biggest 12 with me, your host, Clint Foster. Thank you so much for making us a part of your Tuesday night. Coming and hanging out with you. And boy, do we have a great show for you. But before we get into any of that, I need things from you. You got to do your part, okay? First thing you got to do, like and subscribe to the show at Big 12 VOCFP. There it is right there. Make us a part of every Tuesday night. I mean, hey, maybe I'm a little biased, but I think this show is the best in the game. And a large part of that is because of the awesome guests that we get on the show, okay? And boy, I'll do two good points for you today. So also, please follow me on Twitter at Clint_Foster45, at Clint Foster Comedy on YouTube. Got a new Big 12 video out there for you. If you haven't seen it yet, you should definitely check it out. Very much on theme with what we're talking about today. Also, do check out, I've got it linked on my Twitter account. I've got it linked on my YouTube page. Do fund my documentary feature. Remember the Alamo Bowl that I'm working on right now. I got my first studio day coming up here pretty soon. Got some interviews lined up with some exciting former TCU players. Anything you give would be greatly appreciated. I'm more than halfway to my goal now. So help me make this thing a reality and have some really good content for you in the very near future. There we go. And also, if you're tuning on Twitter, thank you. I mean, oh my gosh, thank you for tuning in there. Follow Voice of College Football if you haven't already. You're going to see the show on there every Tuesday night as well. So without further ado, let me welcome in my two amazing guests this week. They are friends of the show. They've been on the show before, and they are both representatives of the two, current reigning kings of the Big 12. Ladies and gentlemen, we got Brett Balmer and Brownie in the house, representing the COUGS and the Clones. Gentlemen, how are we doing on this Tuesday night?
I'm feeling it. The vibes are real.
I'm pretty happy to be here, Clint. I appreciate the invite. And yeah, let's talk some Big 12 football.
Let's do it, man. Let's do it. Because, hey, here's the deal. This is neither of y'all, I would venture to say, have experienced your teams being at the top of the Big 12 heap. How does it feel, Brownie? You said the hype is real. I mean, what are the emotions that we're going through right now?
Honestly, like, there's a lot of emotions going on. A lot of the fan base, we weren't thinking that we were going to be coming out 6-0. I personally, you can even go on Wide Right Natty Light, look it up. I had us going 10-0 before we started losing things.
Wow.
So just tooting my own horn. I already called this. But yeah, it's just one of those things where it's uncharted territory for us. Iowa State has always been the, afterthought of the Big 12. Iowa State has always been the trap game, so to speak, on schedules, where Oklahoma State, undefeated, playing for the BCS championship game, comes into Ames. We whoop them in overtime. Will Greer going after Heisman. We pull out the 3-3-5 stack defense for the first time ever and flush his Heisman hopes down the toilet, So it's just kind of weird being the ones with like the target on our back,
For sure. What about you, Bomber? Didn't take long, 2 years, right?
Yeah, exact opposite of what Brownie's saying there. BYU is a 3 to 5 year climb. I said that the very first maybe time you and I ever met. I thought it might take a little bit to get there. It's still, we're only halfway through the season, got a long way to go. We've been here before. BYU's been up against that 1 or 2 loss barrier, being an independent or in the Mountain West, fighting for that respect to get anywhere close to something like a playoff. Now 12 teams, it's a little more open. Boise State would tell you, they're driving the bus right now, although Army and Navy are certainly playing well. But
that's another awesome thing.
Yeah, that's right? A great story. You ought to do a video on that. That's a really, really historically a great story. But I would just say BYU has been here before. This isn't new for us necessarily, but it's been a while. And so I think it's something that you have a whole new generation of fans coming through. people saying, hey, is this real? Everybody's holding their breath. And I think it's just something you just have to take it. I hate it. It's trite, but the one game at a time matters. And certainly last year taught them there's not 1 week you can take off in the Big 12. So I think it's going to be a good back second half of the season.
Yeah, talk to TCU about that playing Houston 2 weeks ago. Jeez Louise. So okay, the question on the lips of everyone who knows ball is who wins on a neutral field between Iowa State and BYU, and that's actually our simulation of the day that we're going to check out. We're going to see what College Football 25 thinks about it. But gentlemen, I want to know what you think. Who wins on a neutral field between your two teams?
Brownie, go ahead.
Okay. I guess it all kind of depends on how the first half goes. I actually had some fun stats to share when we got to picking between Iowa State and UCF, but since we're doing this, I might as well share them now. Iowa State has outscored their opponents in the second half 103 to 26 points. Iowa State has only allowed 66 total points in all 6 of their games. 40% of the defensive or points scored against Iowa State comes in the second half. On the reciprocating side of the offense, we've scored 103 in the second half, and we have a total of 184 points. 56% of our offensive productivity comes in the second half of the game. So I've said it to a couple of people before. If Iowa State is within 2 possessions or 2 possessions and a field goal, so 17 points around there somewhere, you better hope that something trips them up in the second half because they're coming.
That sounds sneakily like 2022 TCU. I'm gonna be honest with you.
Yeah,
very much so. So you're taking the Cyclones as long as they're down by 2 touchdowns. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, as long as we are within striking distance of 2 possessions, we have it in the bag. Okay,
Bomber, what do you think?
So I only watched one game, West Virginia. I watched them again. I watched the West Virginia game, of Iowa State, and that definitely was a drumming. There was no doubt about it. I think West Virginia's down. They've lost their coach, so I'm not sure about the comparisons there. The difference is, I would say, BYU's played the toughest schedule up to now in the Big 12.
One of the toughest in the nation.
And I believe it's top 10 in the nation still, even with the new SEC and Big 10 schedules kicking in. So I only go by what I see. I'm not a stats guy. And what I see is BYU's defense is elite. Iowa State's is elite too. But they're very, very opportunistic. In fact, I think both these teams are very, very similar in a lot of ways. All I can tell you is I don't know about Iowa State's schedule. I haven't seen who they've beat up on or anything like that. BYU's played some really good teams, and the teams they've beat already are continuing to win. SMU could beat Clemson to win the ACC this year, and Kansas State still has to go into. Do they go to Ames or is it at K-State? That's a game that's wide open as well. So I think
it's at K-State. At K-State, yeah.
I would take BYU's schedule on the run in outside of the Utah game, which is always a toss up, and on a neutral field, it'll be a good game. I think both teams are opportunistic, and I think that's the most important thing is they both get turnovers and they turn them into points.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about schedule comparison. I think hands down, Iowa State's most impressive win was that one last week against West Virginia. I don't think there's any debating that. Up until that point, it was a lot of North Dakota, Arkansas State, Houston, Baylor, and some of those. Well, actually, no, those were all fairly comfortable. Iowa, of course, was a tough one, but Iowa, I don't care. That's one of those classic rivalry games where you throw out the records insofar as that Iowa is usually going to win, regardless of how good Iowa State
unfortunately.
is. Yeah, but it didn't happen this year, and that's
I know something. It was great.
That's saying something. But BYU definitely has played the tougher schedule. We're talking about a really enticing matchup if it is to happen come December time. Now, there is one team, of course, we're not discussing in this whole conversation, mainly because they're not undefeated, right? But they do have an undefeated conference record. What's y'all's take on Texas Tech? Do you think that they are on the same level as Iowa State, BYU right now? Do you think that they're about to get exposed? What are your thoughts on the Raiders?
My first thoughts on what Texas Tech has done has been they turned around what was a horrible season last year. And that by itself is a huge thing. BYU's done something similar. Both teams are overperforming. Iowa State, I think, is even overperforming this year. So it's a good turnabout in that regard. But I don't think they haven't really played anybody. Their best victory is probably the Arizona game at Arizona. So, I don't know. I think we'll have to see I believe their second half of the season is really where they have to play some good teams. So we'll have to see.
Yeah. To be quite honest, they should have lost that Cincinnati game as well.
They should have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Personally speaking, I think that they should have lost both the Cincinnati game and their first game against
Abilene Christian.
Christian. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think they pulled a rabbit out of their hat for both of those games. But I mean, it's kind of the same effect that Bomber was talking about. Their back end is extremely loaded. They really don't look comfortable on the road either.
Yeah.
Yeah, they put up against Arizona, but I think that was more of like, I don't necessarily want to call it a fluke game because I don't want to take anything away from them because it is a very tough place to go in and win at. But when you look at the back end of their schedule, they're playing against Baylor. They're at TCU. They're at Iowa State. They have to go to Colorado, or Colorado comes to them. They have to play at Okie State. And West Virginia, again, is still what I would consider is basically the trap team of the Big 12 right now. I personally think that West Virginia is a lot better than what their record shows. I think that they do play a lot better. Their only issue that I saw against Iowa State is Iowa State basically put them on that short leash in the second half and forced Green to pass the ball. And Green is not a natural pocket passer. He does a lot better on RPOs, options, spread outs, and play actions. And when you get rid of all those options and you hold them to the run game, I don't really see Texas Tech forcing West Virginia into that certain style of play. Plus, Colorado is such a boom bust team that, I mean, it could go either way too, especially since that one's in Lubbock. But I think that Texas Tech is going to be in a world of hurt, probably starting this week.
Oh, for the Butt Bowl. Okay, it's going to get interesting. Okay, well, we'll come and check in on this game periodically throughout the recording. We'll see what BYU and Iowa State are able to put together.
So I think this is totally slanted against BYU because you have Retzlaff sitting on the bench.
That's true.
Retzlaff is the third best quarterback, I believe, in the Big 12 right now. So I don't think that's quite fair. I think you ought to reboot it, update your records, and rerun the simulation because I don't trust anything I was watching right there.
I hear you. Hey, listen, Jack Besh is he's like the sixth best receiver on TCU's roster in this game, right?
I'm just teasing. You do it.
Yeah, I know. It's like, hey,
it's your show. You do whatever you want.
I'm just gonna put a pin in there, and we got to voice clip this. If they do in fact win the simulation, that it doesn't count.
Right there, you go.
Yeah, perfect. So before we get into this week's games, gentlemen, what was your biggest takeaway from last week's games? It can be about your team. It can be about any team in particular. But what was your biggest takeaway?
Go for it.
Well, shoot. It's hard not to talk about my own team.
Well, go ahead.
BYU is playing lights out, and it all starts with their defense. If you don't know anything about them, you haven't seen a game, which would be pretty hard to believe because they've been on primetime television now 3 or 4 times. Mm-hmm. They are really, really good. And it all started with the quarterback. Everybody was concerned, but Retzlaff has played a lot like the Trent Dilfer type position on a Super Bowl team. Control the ball. Don't turn it over. He had early season ipsies with turnovers and so it has really limited those. And then a very, very, very good opportunistic defense that can turn. If you didn't see the bushwhack that the Kansas State ran into in Provo a few weeks back. I mean, it went from 6-3 to, I think it was like 31-6 in about 4 minutes of game time. That's how fast. And they've done that a couple times already this season. So I think BYU is earning some street cred, but they got it, man. Got to beat Friday night. Got to turn around and beat Oklahoma State this week. Take it week by week. And then the other one I want to call out, and I know they're wounded, but Utah is now in a transition. If you happen to be one person sitting in the Sudan that didn't happen to get the news, Cam is done. He's probably not going to play another down in a Utah uniform. I would be shocked if that happens. The guy is a warrior. He represented the school well, and Utah's going to be better for his legacy. But the rest of the season, it is Isaac Wilson, and he's a true freshman, and he's been shown to do turnovers. So, and historically, Kyle Whittingham's teams don't do well when the quarterback turns the ball over. So it's going to be growing pains. But I would tell everybody November 9th, I'm sure this will be on prime time as much as they can get it highlighted. BYU and Utah in Salt Lake. And that game, I think, will determine, one, if there's a tiebreaker situation for BYU to get into the championship game in Dallas, or if they can win outright and then can win the rest of their games. So that's what I would tell everybody to focus on.
You bring up a good point, Bomber. And also, as far as I'm aware, no one has seen Cam Rising and me in the same room at the same time.
That's true. That's absolutely true.
But
I certainly haven't.
Yeah, you said earlier, you compared Retzlaff to Trent Dilfer. I heard Ty Detmer, and that's why I was like, wow.
I don't think so. No, Ty Detmer threw for 14,000 yards and broke like 75 records. At the end, Retzlaff's not going to be breaking any records anytime soon.
But when
he may go undefeated, and he may get to a playoff game, which Ty Detmer, I don't even think in the pros ever made it to a playoff game. I'm teasing. He did at the Eagles, but that's kind of where we are right now with that.
I mean, when you've got a 2000s Ravens level defense, then you can have a Trent Dilfer.
Exactly right.
And that's what BYU's showing, and I'm so
yeah.
I am just tickled pink with the job that Kalani Sitake has done with that defense and with that team. I mean, BYU very much just everything you could possibly hope for this year. Brownie, your big takeaway from last week.
Mine actually falls outside of the Big 12, which is kind of a weird one for me.
Okay.
And that one was the LSU Ole Miss game. If you guys saw that one.
Yeah,
it went into overtime. I thought the weirdest part was the LSU fans stormed the field after like the overtime win. But like it was a ranked 9 versus a ranked 13, and I do feel like Ole Miss was overranked for it. And I mean, I love storming the field as much as the next person does. I think it's a great experience for the college kids and stuff. But to me, it just felt kind of weird that they stormed the field when it was one of those where I believe they were actually picked to win.
Yeah.
So like
Bush League.
I remember watching that game, and the entire time it was happening, I was actually like sitting there watching it going, SEC, SEC, SEC. So I don't know why. It was just like one of those haha funny moments. The other one was Oregon against Ohio State.
Right.
That was the other one that I was just like, oh man, like Saturday's entire schedule was phenomenal until my TV died in the middle of it.
Oh wow, that sucks.
Yeah.
No.
It was terrible because then like we were sitting there, we were researching the TVs and stuff like that. And I told my wife, I was like, listen, I got to get home. I got to get it installed. I got to get it back up on the wall before the Iowa State West Virginia game is on.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I'm going to be mad.
Oh my God.
There's new running joke where I have to sacrifice a TV in order to keep the streak alive over here.
I like that.
Sounds like you were like NASCAR pit crew, like getting that TV ready to go.
Oh man, you have no idea. I seriously thought I was going to probably break the screen while installing it. I was so quick in trying to change it.
Let's knock Ole Miss for a second. Why do they continually underachieve? I don't understand. They cannot. Lane Kiffin cannot go a season without losing at least 3 games. How does this happen year after year? He has some of the top recruiting class in the entire nation year after year. He's got Jackson Dart, who could be a top 5 pick in the NFL draft next year. I don't get it.
Yeah.
I mean, the easy answer is that the SEC West is usually a gauntlet, right? You've got some of the historically the best teams in the SEC have been in the West, Georgia notwithstanding, right? So it's like you got to get through your LSUs, your Alabamas, and then also avoid like a loss on the road at A&M or Arkansas sneaking up on you or whatever else. But yeah, I totally agree with you. I mean, I don't know how rabid Ole Miss fans are. I mean, my sister went to Ole Miss, and I kind of like casually hope for their success, but I don't know that there's going to be a lot of calling for his head as long as they're up near the top of the conference. But yeah, it's kind of like, hey, when are you going to turn that talent into something?
Yeah.
When are you going to actually compete for a championship?
Yeah, and I think it kind of falls in the exact same boat as like even if you look at Ohio State. How many times is it Ohio State always has these really good teams and then they always fall to like another top 5 team? This year it's Oregon. Last year it was Michigan. The year before that was Michigan. It just seems like Ohio State is also in the same boat as Ole Miss, but not nearly as bad because at least they only finished the season with 1 loss. But it feels like you're always watching that team going, oh, we're going to finally get over that hump. And then they just run straight into it like it's a brick wall. So it's fun to watch. College football is fun to watch because of the sheer and utter chaos that can ensue from it,
Absolutely.
Yeah, as a TCU fan in the year of our Lord 2024, I will say it can be fun to watch. It can be. My big takeaway from last week is that Cosmo the Cougar must undergo like Navy SEAL training. I don't know how they pick that guy every year, but he's always outdoing himself. I'm like, where do they find these kids that are like leaping out of planes and like jumping through fire and like all of this
I don't know.
stuff?
My wife asked me, and you might know this more because you were in the band, the back, office a little bit more about these teams, but is it possible there's more than one of them?
Oh, well, yeah, I guess that's true. Yeah.
I don't know. My wife asked that question. I don't know the answer to it, but I know the guy has to be about the most toned, no alcohol, no drugs. So
the dude's got to be jacked because I mean, my favorite one to watch is when he does the push-ups on the tables. Yeah, and then he just keeps doing that. I'm like, man, if I would try that, I would literally like jump 2 inches off the ground and face plant into the dirt.
Yeah, I don't even think I could do one push-up.
Just like a normal push-up. Yeah. My only critique is like, why does he have no eyeballs? Like the no eyeballs thing is creepy to me.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not in that business, so
that's my only critique. All right, so we're talking BYU. Let's talk BYU's game this coming week because it is the first one on Friday night. Oklahoma State and BYU basically in inverse positions that they were last year when BYU gave the Pokes all they could handle in Stillwater. What was it, 3 overtimes, 4 overtimes? Something crazy.
I think it was at least a couple.
Yeah. It's a crazy game. And here BYU sits at the top of the conference, top 15 ranking. Oklahoma State is a heap of burning trash this year. But is this a game that concerns you at all, Bomber?
Absolutely.
Like BYU covers.
Every time BYU. So BYU's broken a couple of, what are they called? Holy cows? Not holy cows. Sort of, things that are always out there that you can't seem to get over, right? There's these sacred cows is what I was trying to say. And one of those sacred cows is the replacement quarterback. They've always struggled with replacement quarterbacks. Every year they struggle, and I don't see why this year is going to be any different. This might be the first game. BYU, I think, is covered now. Well, every game this season. So 6 games they've covered. And that's hard to cover. It's one thing to win. It's another thing to cover. Vegas knows its stuff. 9 points scares me. I got to be honest with you. I think that if BYU goes out and wins by 1 point, I'll be happy. I just want the win. At this point, we're just stacking win after win after win. It doesn't matter how you do it as long as you keep winning. And so I am a little bit worried because Bowman, I was licking my chops for. Like Cam, I wanted Cam to be there. Isaac Wilson, I'm not looking forward to when we go to Utah. So as far as I'm concerned, I'd rather play these old rust bucket type QBs that have been around forever, that lots of tape on, that you can see. TCU last year, who was it? Hoover? Who was your quarterback that came in last year? Came in and just
Hoover with the BYU game.
Torched them like it was an arcade game or something. And it's all because nobody knew, right? Nobody knew anything about this kid. And now we've got some more tape on him, but we don't know anything about this new replacement quarterback. I think he's been in and played a little bit, but this defense is different. So Jay Hill, I believe BYU will win this game, but 9 points kind of scares me.
Yeah. Fun fact, this is the second largest spread in the Big 12 this week. The only one that's larger belongs to guess who?
Oh, Iowa State. Let's go.
Iowa State. Yeah, Iowa State's the only one that's got bigger. Brownie, do you have any concerns about the Cougs in this game, or do you feel like this is one that you get a Cougar tail and don't sweat it?
This is kind of weird because while we've been talking, even before we got on stream, there's a report that has come out of Stillwater that Mike Gundy had a quote-unquote run-in with his cattle and has an injured eye.
What?
Yeah.
Really?
Yep. I got a bad
breaking news on the biggest 12, folks.
Yeah.
Wow.
I've got a bad eye that I didn't think would be particularly enjoyable for people when they were looking at my pretty face in a live interview, Gundy said. But more importantly, it's full of blood and I get dizzy.
Y'all will not guess where I found this story on the internet. On Fox News.
Yeah.
Actually.
Oh, okay.
Fox Sports.
Really?
Fox News. No, this is regular Fox News.
Oh, yeah.
Injury after run-in with his cattle. Cowboys.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Whether or not I'm assuming that is true because it says that he did it on a Zoom call.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I'm putting my full, undoubtedly blind faith in news articles right now.
There you go. I got you.
That'll never burn me at all. So, I mean, if it is in fact true, he's either A, already making an excuse on why he lost to BYU, or B, he's going to use it as like some random motivation, and he's going to come out and play lights out like we thought Okie State was supposed to do at the beginning. I don't know. I do feel like 9 points is kind of an entrapment on BYU, especially since they have covered. I think Okie State will play it a lot closer than we think. I personally think that BYU, though, is just going to blow them out of the water. I don't see, maybe going into the second half, it might be a one-possession game. Maybe a field goal splits the two.
Right.
Or even like a missed extra point or something is going to split the two. And then second half, Cougars are just going to come out and blow their socks off.
Gundy queuing up the classic excuse. My team lost because a steer poked me in the eye.
Crazy story, isn't it?
General says, I heard MSNBC Gundy attacked the poor cow. Yeah. That's we like some balance in our
voice.
There we go. I will say this: BYU at night games are 23 and 25 in the last 6 years in night games. Anything after 8 p.m. Eastern time. So I mean 23 and 2. I apologize. They've only lost twice. 23 out of 25 times they've won those games. So you don't want to be in Provo on a night game. You see that on the schedule, you just want to take a pass if you can. So that's where we're at for this Friday. On another note, the weather is going to be rainy, and finally it's 85 today. It's going to be 50 and cool on Friday night. So who knows? For all those bettors out there, that's information you'll need.
All right. Well, I'm picking the Cougars in this one. I like the Cougars. I like them to keep it rolling. I don't know if they cover. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if Oklahoma State covers, but yeah, give me the Cougs to keep it rolling. Moving on, we got Arizona State at Cincinnati. This is a very enticing matchup to me. Two teams that have been very much on the come up this year. I like Sorsby a lot. I keep singing his praises. It feels like every single week on this show, and I really, really love that Arizona State coach. I love Scadaboo, everything Arizona State is doing. Can Arizona State win on the road? That's the big question. I'm inclined to pick Cincinnati in this one, just because not all that unlike Texas Tech. It seems like Arizona State is a different team at home versus on the road. How do y'all see this one playing out at 11 a.m.?
I personally think that Cincinnati is going to pull this one, pull a rabbit out of their hat, so to speak. It is their homecoming this week as well. So I think that there is going to be a little extra motivation. From personal history, though, Cincinnati is 0-1 against Iowa State when it's their homecoming. Not to rub some salt on the wound. But I do like Sorsby. I really think that they do have the weapons. Their defense is getting a lot healthier. They had, I think, missed a couple of D linemen the past couple of weeks, and a few of them I've heard have been coming back. The only question mark that I have for the entire game is, can Cincy contain Scadaboo? I think that's going to be the challenge for every Big 12 team. Can they contain the running back? Because, I mean, man, watching that game against Utah just could not stop that kid. He was catching footballs, he was running, he was blocking. I mean, he was everything that you would want from basically a power back. You know, he's going downhill, he's attacking the defenders. I do think that Cincinnati has the defense to be able to contain it, especially with that front defensive line. They probably have one of the best defensive lines in the Big 12. So it's going to be all up to them on what they want to do. Wow.
Just checking in on it. Just
remember, it doesn't count. Wrong quarterback.
There you go.
Bomber, who are you taking in Sun Devils, Bearcats?
I would take this, and I'd bet the mortgage this month. Arizona State has never traveled for any amount of time 2 time zones, let alone I believe they're in the Mountain or the Pacific time zone right now. They might be going 3. They might be going all 3 time zones to go back east. I would take Cincinnati to cover easy, and Scadaboo's good, but Utah showed you how not to tackle him. I anticipate Cincinnati to put 8 guys in the box and say, "Come at us, bro," and make that quarterback complete a pass farther than about 5 yards. So I'm not afraid. I think Arizona State's come a long way. I had them picked last in the conference, just like basically everybody else did. They've overperformed for sure, but I think Cincinnati is going to become part of their come down. They've had a relatively easy first part of the season, if you count Utah with a dinged Cam as easy. And I think they're going to find out that Scadaboo can run, but it's hard to run against a box of 8. So they're going to make that quarterback beat him over the top. He's going to be in the NFL. There's no doubt about that.
100%.
But I don't think it's going to be on Cincinnati's back this week.
Yeah. All right. Looking to another game in the Big 12, 2:30 game. Houston at Kansas. Kansas is almost a full touchdown favorite. Their first opportunity for a win in a while. I think Houston might have gotten the only one that they were going to get against poor, stupid, hapless TCU. I like the Jayhawks at home in this one. What do you guys think?
No shot. Houston's going to cover that 6.5, and I actually have Houston winning.
Oh, okay.
Upset alert, if you can consider it an upset with a Jayhawks team that's 1-5. I think, was it a couple weekends ago, I was saying that the Kansas offensive coordinator reminded me a lot of the old Iowa State offensive coordinator, Tom Manning. I think that offense is starting to struggle. They're starting to realize it. And I don't think that Grimes has it in him to fully adjust a playbook. I think he's just kind of stuck with who he has. Jalen Daniels hasn't looked as good as he did in the past. Neither has Devin Neal. They don't have the weapons that they used to have on offense. And the defense seems very inconsistent. So I really think that Houston has been turning it around. I mean, it's been a little bit of a grind. They're done getting shut out by teams at least. But yeah, I think that Houston goes in and plays spoiler alert to Kansas.
Bomber, what do you think?
I didn't know this game was this week, so I knew it was coming up, but I wasn't sure when. Does one team have to win? Can we have ties anymore? Is that possible?
Yeah,
Look, I Kansas I thought would be really, really good this year, and Jalen Daniels is
me
falling off.
too.
But they brought in Jeff Grimes, who's quite possibly the worst offensive coordinator outside of my own, but we can talk about that here. I think that they've regressed so far. I honestly don't know who to take. 7 points seems
Yeah.
ridiculous to me. I mean, I thought 9 was bad for BYU, and they're winning. I can't even imagine a team that's only won one game having 7 points. Yeah, that just seems like a lot. I would probably, with the points, I'd probably take Houston.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Moving on to the 3 p.m. time slot. The Butt Bowl, ladies and gentlemen. BUTT, Baylor, Texas Tech. No longer is it played in Arlington. It's in Lubbock this year. I know, Brownie, you were saying you think this is when the wheels come off the Texas Tech train. I like the Raiders at home against Baylor. Baylor is super mega butt if we're talking about, butts in the Butt Bowl. Bomber, do you see this going any different way?
I think Baylor wins this.
Yeah.
I do. I think Texas Tech is good and they're on a roll, but Baylor's better than their record. So if you're a Baylor homer, you've got a lot. I mean, Aranda, I would want him gone too. But your team has actually played pretty well. They held BYU to 1 possession. They hung around with the Utah team that at the time had a fully healthy, half this game had a fully healthy Cam Rising. So I think Baylor could win this game. I certainly would take the 6.5. I would, if I was a Baylor fan, I'd be happy with 6.5 points.
6.5 is a lot. 6.5 is a lot in the Big 12. I mean, even if you look to last week's scores and everything, almost everything was decided by 3 points except for the BYU and the Iowa State game, I believe. I think
they were
Arizona
in that.
State,
They were in that Iowa State game for 3 quarters. If they didn't turn the ball over on two successive possessions,
exactly.
That's what I'm saying. That's the game I'm actually judging this off of. Is that one?
And what's absolutely crazy too is when you look at these two teams, I really think that Baylor has the higher ceiling, and Texas Tech, I think, has already hit their ceiling.
Maybe.
I don't see a lot of wiggle room, so to speak, for Texas Tech to go out and win this game. I think it's going to come down to a couple of turnovers. Morton has done really well, 14 touchdowns to 2 interceptions. He's been holding on to the ball a lot. I just personally think that with Aranda's back to the wall, everybody's talking about, is he going to have a job the following week? Is he going to have a job at the end of the year? I think he's just going to start pulling out all the stunts. You're halfway through the season. You're 2-4. You're 0-3 in Big 12. You got to do something for your job. I mean, we saw it with Neil Brown against Iowa State. He called all 3 of his timeouts with a minute and a half left to try to stop it. And Matt Campbell just decided to put up the big old middle finger, went for it on 4th and 3 with a seam over the top to seal it. And I think Aranda's kind of in the same boat.
Yeah. All right. Well, elsewhere in the 3 p.m. time slot, we got a Pac-12 reunion, Colorado at Arizona. I don't know what to think about this game, to be honest with you. Possibly the 2 best quarterback receiver duos in the conference, maybe. But outside of that, I don't know. I maybe like Colorado on the road in this one. What do you two think?
Is Hunter out for this game? Did they say that he's back?
Good question.
I haven't. Both him and Horn were out. It'd be
Yeah,
nice to know if Horn is out too. It depending on the injury status of the top 2 receivers on their team and their best DB. Colorado can't run the ball, so it's a throw the ball 65 times, Shedeur Sanders kind of game. And BYU didn't exactly torch Arizona. They won by a good margin, but I mean, there at the end it was a pick six, in the last possession of
Travis.
the game, and I would on this one 3.5 is a lot. If it was 2, I'd probably take Arizona outright, but I think I'd still probably take Arizona. I think Colorado's just they can't run the ball.
According to
Herb
On
beats him
3,
all. He's
Deion
back.
Sanders said that Travis Hunter should play for certain this weekend in
Okay,
Arizona.
well, he changes the game all by himself. He might make
Yeah.
that 3 points up just by himself. So it's probably a pick 'em.
Yeah, I see that Travis Hunter and Jimmy Horn are projected to play, but Jimmy Horn is a game day decision.
Hmm.
If you get both of them back, I personally see Colorado coming out with the win against Arizona. But I mean, if you look at that Colorado team, as soon as Travis Hunter went down, it was a completely different team.
Yes.
You know,
Mm.
Yeah.
he, as much as I think Deion Sanders wants to make it about his sons and stuff like that, it's Travis Hunter's team to it's his games to win or lose. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? And I hate it when everybody always goes, "Oh, it's on so and so to win this game." Like Colorado, I'm sorry, but it's up to Travis Hunter to win you games. If Travis Hunter does not perform, you do not win. If you do not have Travis Hunter on the field, I don't think that you're going to win either. If he leaves again in like the first quarter because he tweaked his shoulder again, whether it be on offense or defense, I don't see them beating Arizona. But if the reports are right that Hunter's back and healthy and Jimmy Horn is a game day and he dresses and plays, yeah, Colorado's going to steamroll Arizona, I fear.
All right. Moving on to Iowa State, a 14-point favorite at home against
Jesus.
UCF.
That's
Also,
that's a lot of points.
to check in here, Abu
Brother.
Sama just fumbled, and BYU recovered here with the lead and less than 2 minutes to go in our
Wow.
simulation here.
How
So,
about that?
Oh,
all
that's
right.
game.
So, so Iowa State, I mean, they'll beat UCF at home. Will they cover a 14-point spread? I think that's the question.
So I guess I know that I've said it in the past. Matt Campbell does not like to blow out opponents, right? The Arkansas State game was a complete and total fluke. He went out and apologized to Butch Jones for whooping his butt with a bunch of backups. It's one of those things that I always find funny because I always say that our offense is like a rabid dog on a very short leash. Matt Campbell keeps Mouser, I think, on a super short leash, and you can always see it in the play calling, where we'll have a couple of possessions where we score in 5, 6 plays, 80 yards in 5 to 6 plays, and then the next possession is a 3 and out, and then the next possession is a 3 and out, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh hey, we can play offense this time, and then it's an 80-yard 3-play touchdown drive. I, I really don't see us covering 14 points. Like 14 is very generous for an Iowa State team.
Yeah. Yeah. Bomber, do you think it happens?
Again, I saw 14 points and I was like, whoa, wait a second. It sounds like BYU and Iowa State have a lot of things in common this year then, because Kalani's the exact same way. Every time, all I want him to do is score 40 points every game, and invariably he'll stop at 31 and be happy. So 14 points is very, very difficult to cover. However, UCF is melting down. So I think I'm going to take Iowa State giving the points, and I think it might be something bloody at the end. I don't even know what the score could be.
I would
Because
love for it to be
Iowa
bloody.
State's defense is going to score some points in this game. I'd be shocked if they don't score a couple touchdowns.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
freaking
my
irritated
only
we lost
concern
that
with
game.
the Iowa State stuff is our defense. Because for anybody that's following really closely, last weekend we started 2 walk-ons at linebacker. We are fresh out of linebackers. So we held West Virginia to what we did with 2 walk-on linebackers, 2 backup defensive backs, and a backup defensive lineman. So I always kind of sit there and chuckle, and I was like, John Heacock must have known that our defense was going to be so good that he wanted to cripple us for the entire season by allowing us to have so many injuries on defense. But
yeah, it's a long road. It's 12 games.
Yeah.
You can't be going through halfway season and then injuring. That's when you want to pull your people out for sure.
Yeah, and that's kind of what Iowa State has been screaming about, because Caleb Bacon went out in our first game against North Dakota, and he was in on punt returns. Our best linebacker was in on
Yikes.
special teams and went
Yeah.
down with. So allegedly he can come back at the end of the season, but everybody who knows Matt Campbell speak for injuries, we're not. He's not coming back at the end of the season. For all we know, we might as well start printing his mug on the side of milk cartons because he's missing.
In search of. I gotcha.
Yeah. So that's always
funny.
kind of the weird thing for me is John Heacock can literally pull fans out of the stands, dress them up as linebackers, and go out and somehow still win football games. Just absolutely blows my mind. We just have to get to the second half.
Yeah. Man, things getting wild in the simulation here.
How many
Okay,
fumbles
so
was that in a row?
our last member of the top 25 in action on Saturday, Kansas State travels to West Virginia, where they are a 3-point favorite. West Virginia is another one that I feel like the wheels are starting to come off. I really thought that West Virginia would have a better showing against Iowa State at home. Can they trust the climb against Kansas State? I mean, it is a night game, so you never know in Morgantown, but Kansas State's pretty daggum good, and they're firing on all cylinders right now. I think I like the Wildcats.
I'm going to have to, I'll pick this and then I got to go. I got my show in 10 minutes. So I'm sorry. I was a little bit too chatty on some of your answers, Clint. We'll have to do this
Head there
again.
next, everyone. Head to Big 12 Mafia next.
I appreciate that. Brownie, it's nice to meet you. We'll have to hook up.
Heck yeah.
So I think look, I saw Kansas State in person. I was at that game, and I could not have been more impressed with their quarterback. Remind me what his name is? I'm sorry,
Avery Johnson.
Avery Johnson. Kid's going to be good, and he's going to be good for a long time. He might not always be at Kansas State, but he's going to be a good player. West Virginia, I thought was going to give Iowa State a game. And that did not turn out to be it. Night game's a little different in Morgantown, the elevation a little bit. It's going to be cold, but I think Kansas State's going to go in there and actually, I think it's 3. They might win by 10. So I respect the heck out of West Virginia, but I just think that K-State's got too much for them.
Yeah. Bernie, what do you think?
I still see this as a trap game, and I don't know why. Every time somebody travels to West Virginia, I always feel like it's a trap game. Iowa State, I actually was fearing for my life in the first half, just because of the way that the game was going, and I then realized that we were a second half team, and we kept it within that point differential. What I do find funny is Neil Brown's interview, where he was pitching the idea to the fans of having a good time and that winning isn't everything.
Yeah, that was.
And if I have ever
I missed that. Oh my god.
Yeah, and if I have ever heard of a speech that is, "Hey man, I know we suck, but please come to the football game still," that is the speech.
That might get him fired, actually.
Right? And
that might get him fired.
And I don't know if he's just pleading the case of show up and see what I can still do. But again, Morgantown always just scares me for some strange reason. And I think that they're going to give K-State a run for their money, but I still see Kansas State blowing them out by a solid 2 to 3 possessions.
Yeah. Well, our last game, this one, there was a time when this was a Clash of Titans 15 years ago. I can't believe
isn't that true?
And here now it is two two dumpster fires going at it. Here's the thing. Yo, how many points is TCU going to lose by? It really doesn't bother me that Cam Rising is out, because all you have to do is run the ball on TCU and you win going away.
And that's not what you want to do, because that's all they can do is run the ball. So,
exactly. You know,
yeah.
and I mean, surely Kyle Whittingham is not so stupid as to go away from the run like Kansas did when we were at Kansas.
Micah Bernard will have 200 yards on the ground if it's that bad.
Yeah, I'm fully expecting 175 minimum on our defense.
Yikes.
I don't care how many good practices we had. It sucks because I feel like there's a lot of talent on TCU's team. It's just this coaching staff has not been able to put it together. Talk me off the ledge. Do either of y'all think that there's any world in which something good happens in Salt Lake City for my Frogs?
No.
No,
I don't think so. No, they're going to be emotionally charged up. Cam will probably run the flag out. No, he can't run it, can he?
He can't run it.
He can't. He can't even bear. He's supposed to be.
He'll hobble it out like.
Yeah, so they're going to be on emotional high. They're rallying behind their freshman quarterback, and I think you might see it might be an ugly score at the end if TCU doesn't put up a little bit of an offense. So I would. Yeah, 4.5 is, I don't know who did that in Vegas. That's crazy. That's another one, bet the mortgage.
Right? I literally can't believe this line. I cannot believe
that line is pretty crazy. I bet you no, he can't do it because he's a banker. I'll have to see if Moen lays a bet down for him. Because 4.5.
Brownie, do I have any hope?
No, you don't. I'm sorry, Clint. I really wish that I could say that you do, but honestly, Utah is just going to come out and spank you. I'm so sorry, but
I know it.
The glory days are over, and now you get to slip into we need to start fighting for bowl eligibility. Is really what I think that TCU is now planning for, is fighting for that bowl eligibility spot. You know, I really think that Bernard's going to come out here and put up 250 on you. 3 touchdowns. I really think he's just going to run all over the place.
That's what I fully expect.
And Isaac Wilson's no joke now. He's a 4-star. He threw for like 9,500 yards in high school or something. He can
Did he
throw
beat
the
his
ball.
Brother's records or no?
I
didn't follow it that close.
I think Zach's still out a little bit, but he won a couple national championships, so I know he or national state championships. All I know is that he's going to be good in the future. So I would definitely just say you bet the over on Utah.
Yeah. Well, gentlemen, thank you so much. As BYU tries to close this game out, let's close this show out. Gentlemen, tell the people where they can find you, where they can follow you, all the good things.
Me, I'm at, well, you can see my name there. You see all my hashtags and everything for Twitter. On YouTube, my channel is Big 12 Mafia or College Football Mafia Network. Look for both of them. And me and my team, we got a good show. We're kicking off in 5 minutes.
Yep. Head over there next, folks. Head over there next. Brownie, take it away.
Yeah, Brownie with Wide Right Natty Light. You can find us on Twitter or widerightnattylight.com. I'm on Twitter as well with @HoosierBurner if you want some really ridiculous takes on some really ridiculous topics. Otherwise, yeah, let's go have some fun again this week, Big 12.
And you'll have to let me know who wins, Clint.
Yeah, I certainly will. We'll see if we get man, it's going to go into another overtime.
It is. It is.
All right. Yes. To all of the rest of you out there, thank you for making us a part of your Tuesday night. Please do subscribe to the show if you haven't already at Big 12 Voice of College Football. Share it with your folks. Share it with your friends. Let's grow this sucker. Let's make it a nationwide thing, okay? International. Let's do that. And please do follow me on Twitter at Clint_Foster55. Oh, there you go.
There we go.
Iowa State took it.
Right.
But it doesn't count, as we said.
Doesn't count.
Westlock was not playing.
Peace out.
Is the See You Bomber.
See you later. All right. Bye, Brownie.
And please do consider donating to the GoFundMe for my documentary feature that I have in the works right now. Until next time, I love you. I hope your team wins. And go Big 12. We'll see you around.